Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Brothers and sisters, there are certain ahkam connected to the day of Eid that the Muslim must learn and become accustomed to. There are ahkam connected to the night before Eid, the day of Eid itself, the days after Eid. All of these are very important in the life of a Muslim. But from the ahkam connected to the day of Eid, and these are frequently asked questions, is how do we celebrate the Eid? Are we allowed to greet one another in the way that we want? Do we have to say تقبل الله منا ومنكم, or can we say Eid Mubarak? Can we say كل عام وأنتم بخير? Can we, have our own different greetings for one another? If we can we do it before the Salah? Can we do it before the day of Eid itself, meaning the night before Eid, or maybe even in Ramadan? Or does it have to be after the Eid Salah? Can we exchange gifts? Can we have an event? A walima where all of us, friends and family, they gather? Can we have an event in the masjid? Here's another important one. Can we have Eid cards? Can we decorate our homes? Now, in order for us to understand the way that you celebrate Eid and the ahkam connected to the way that you celebrate Eid, we have to understand that there are two very opposite scholarly approaches. One group of scholars have said you have to be reserved and you have to look at the way that the Sharia tells us to celebrate, and we will celebrate in that manner. Then you've got another group of scholars, and this is the view of the majority, and we'll cover that in a minute. They have said all of this is down to customs. Therefore, they are very lenient. So let me give you an example. Abu Umama al-Bahili from the companions. This is a hadith which is Jayyid. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah said that is a good, sound isnad. He said, radiyallahu anhu, فَكَانُوا إِذَا رَجَعُوا مِنَ الْعِيدِ, when they used to come home from Salat al-Eid, يَقُولُ بَعْدُهُمْ لِبَعْدٍ, then they used to say to one another, تَقَبَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنَّا وَمِنكُمْ, may Allah accept from us and you. From this now, you can find some scholars, and you will find this from the time of Imam Ahmad himself. Imam Ahmad himself says, أَنَا لَا أَبْتَدِئُ أَحَدًا, I will not start off greeting with one another. If somebody greets me, then I will respond, but I will not initiate the greeting on the day of Eid. Why? Because if you look at this narration here, from the narrations of Abu Umam al-Bahili and things which are similar to this, you will find that there is nothing in the Sunnah to say that you should be initiating something. But we find from the Sunnah that if somebody initiates with you a greeting, then you should respond. Therefore, there are a group of scholars who are saying here that the way you celebrate Eid needs to be looked at and inspected. I'm not saying here for one moment that Imam Ahmad is one of the stricter ones. In actual fact, he isn't. And we'll talk about that in a second. But some of the scholars have said, no, look, this narration of Abu Umama al-Bahili, he says himself that we used to say, تَقَبَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنَّا وَمِنكُمْ. This is what you say. When do you say, إِذَا رَجَعُوا min as-salat, when they used to come home after the salat? Therefore, you can't do it before the salat. And you will find well-known fatwas, such as Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan, or Sheikh, may Allah preserve him. He says you can't greet one another with the greeting of on the days of Eid before the salat. You can't. There's no evidence for it. Sheikh al-Albani, rahimahullah, said that Eid cards are innovation. He says it's an imitation of the Jews and the Christians. They are the ones that, exchange cards and things like that. We don't do that. So Sheikh Albani was very strict on this. Therefore, there are a group of scholars who are saying that the way you celebrate, it has to be, inspected according to the Sharia. And if the Sharia allows it, then it should be fine. Otherwise, it has to be done in the way that the Salaf did it. Now you've got another group of scholars, and this is from the four madhabs. From the Hanafis, you will find kalam, you will find speech, you will find stuff from the Maliki madhab, the Shafi'i, and the Hanabila, etc. All of them are saying that it is lenient. As long as it's within the bounds of the Sharia, there is nothing to say that you can't celebrate Eid in whatever way that you want. Gifts, greetings, gatherings, events in the masjid. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ was with Aisha, and they were looking at some young men from Africa, and they were doing martial arts in the masjid, and this was the day of Eid. We have the narration of Abu Bakr radiyallahu anh. where people were making nasheeds, they were singing nasheeds in the house of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Abu Bakr was about to remove them. He's singing in the presence of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, no, leave them now. لِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ عِيدٌ وَهَذَا عِيدُنَا. Every single group of people, every nation has its Eid. This is our Eid. Leave them, Abu Bakr. Let them celebrate the way that they want. Therefore, the opinion of the majority of ulama, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is actually quite balanced in this. He said, مَنْ فَعَلَهُ فَلَهُ قُدْوَةٌ وَمَنْ تَرَكَهُ فَلَهُ قُدْوَةٌ. Anyone who wants to be strict on this issue, then he can go ahead and be strict, because you have that understanding from the time of the Salaf. What narrations do you have from the Salaf that they used to do certain things on the way that you do them on their Eid? Doesn't exist. Therefore, if you want to have that approach, that is entirely up to you, Ibn Taymiyyah is saying. But if a person wants to say, no, I want to celebrate the Eid that we want, and we're not doing anything haram, then there is no harm in that. This is what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, all of this falls under the adat. All of this, the way that you celebrate Eid, falls under the customs of the people that you follow. Therefore, if there is nothing haram in the way that you celebrate Eid, then inshallah there is nothing harmful in that, inshallah. And like I said, this is from the view of the four madhabs. One of the contemporary ulama, one of the major scholars, he said that this falls under istihsan. In order for us to understand what istihsan is, Quran is a source of legislation. Sunnah, ijma, qiyas. Istihsan is another source of legislation. So he's saying here, he's using Islamic principles to say, listen, as long as you're not doing anything haram, this falls under istihsan. Therefore, I think we've had a similar question to this before on what is the ruling on decorating your home on account of the beginning of Ramadan. It's the same thing now here. On account of ending Ramadan, what is the ruling? We will say, as long as there is no extravagance, there is no mixing, there's nothing haram like music, there are no images, etc. It's not, decorating the masjids, etc. Then inshallah, all of this is permissible. The way that you greet one another, the timing that you greet one another. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is saying here, the greeting itself, Eid Mubarak, taqabbalna minna minkum, hope you have a nice Eid. All of this is from the rulings of making dua for one another. Is there a restriction how we make dua for one another? You can make dua for anyone, anytime that you want. Therefore, even if it is Ramadan, you can say Eid Mubarak. May Allah accept your good deeds. I hope you've had a very good Ramadan. I hope you have a blessed Eid. Nothing wrong with that, because it all falls under what is customary. Another group of scholars have said, no, the companions didn't do that. They did it after the Eid Salah, and they particularly said, taqabbalallahu minna wa minkum. Therefore, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, فَمَنْ تَرَكَهُ فَلَهُ قُدْوَةٌ وَمَنْ فَعَلَهُ فَلَهُ قُدْوَةٌ. This is an issue where, a difference of opinion exists, and a sensible approach has to be adopted. There are scholars who are going to look at things in different ways, and alhamdulillah, the religion is broad. If you want to follow that way, that is up to you. If you want to follow the way of the majority who say that you can follow it and you can have your celebrations in any way that you want, that is also up to you. And inshallah, there is no harm in that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes this as an Eid of khair and barakah for Islam and the Muslims wherever they may be. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina.